Hello? Can anyone around here speak basketball?
There it is.
It's the Confederacy of Dunks Basketball Podcast.
Kyle Lowry. Welcome to the Confederacy of Dunks Basketball Podcast. I am your host, Freddie Rivas. And who, sir, are you?
Well, on my birth certificate, it says Matt Duncan with a few on the end. And I'm the producer, and I am here, and I'm having a good time. Fred, how you doing?
I'm also here. I'm also having a good time. We had a wonderful pod today.
Absolutely.
Cathryn Naiker, one of our favorite guests, joins us, as well as Vong Show.
Yeah.
We talk about theme parks, the 10 seed, the play-in, and Zion narratives. It was a pretty fun time.
Yeah.
All right, I'll see you later.
Yeah, Fred. I'll take it from here, I guess.
Just kidding. No, Matt, people need to know. That's what we're both feeling that. People need to know how they can help us, how we can grow all those podcast goods.
Right,
Maddie, give them the info.
Yeah, I've got a bit of info here, guys. Bear with me. We'll get through it fast. The easier you pay attention, the easier I have time of doing this. Understand? Go to dunkspodcast.com. That is our website there. We have all our episodes. You can listen on our website, or you can go to the sonarnetwork.com. That's the podcast network that we are a part of. And yes, Vong is on our show today. Welcome to the network, Vaughn. He has the Rice Asian Movies podcast. That is, now that you're listening to it on Wednesday, it came out yesterday. So it's up. It's ready to go. Make sure you check out his podcast, and then also check out ours there too. Okay, we got all kinds of links set up. I love talking about those. I'm a bit of a podcast environmentalist, so I plant these link trees, and we get as much as we can out of them. You want a toque? We got our Shopify link there. You want to go to the Sonar Network? We got a button for that too. Our YouTube, we do have this now on the YouTube. People are starting to like that whole vibe too. Who knows what the future holds for the Confederacy of Dunks on YouTube. And just subscribe, rate wherever you can. We really appreciate it. And nothing but love, guys. We really appreciate it.
And I got nothing but love for you, Mr. Linktree, the snowblower god that you are, audio master. I'm lucky to have you. You're a pro. You're my Matty D. It's we're having a good time here.
Yeah.
But just get a little bit serious before we jump into basketball talk. The verdict for the trial of Derek Chauvin came through. Guilty on all charges. I think I just want to say, sure, there's a bit of a sigh of relief, but also it's frustrating that, any form of accountability feels so rare. And I guess also a little bit encouraging that a little bit of justice, some justice was able to be achieved, whether, at least in the form of a symbol. In this moment, obviously there's just so much more work to do. But it's a good thing. I'll say stop Asian hate, Black Lives Matter, email your city councilors, and defund the police. And with that, I think we are basically good to get this pod rolling. Maddie, if you feel like we're good to go, please, sir, just give me those sweet words. Okay. Okay, sweet. I'm very excited and ready to go, ready to talk some ball. Bringing back to the podcast, She's a very frequent guest. She's the most frequent guest. She's the original Nick Nurse, just lover of all kinds. She predates Fisherman's Friends. She's a writer for Amazing A Million Things and the host of Buckets and Tea podcast. Give it up as loud as you can, even if you're at home alone, for Cathryn Naiker.
Hello, hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm excited to have you back, as always.
Always happy to be here, buddy.
Sweet. Let's just keep this train moving, and let's bring on guest number 2, and let's start talking ball. This is their first time on the podcast. I'm very, very excited. They are joining the Sonar Podcast Network with their podcast Rice Asian Movies Podcast. Give it up as loud as you can, even if you're at home alone, for Vong Show. This is your music. Okay, this is pretty cool.
Loved it. It gave me some Rocky vibes.
Yeah, I was going to say, how was that for you? Did it feel like it fit? Because you can't ever get rid of it.
I will dance to anything. I love that. Was like inspirational. I feel like I could see in my brain, I'm doing like some type of a training montage to that music.
I was going to say it felt very trainy. I was like, I had like a comic book picture in my head, like not like Sin City, but like someone doing layups. Like, and like there's like thunderbolts going in between, you know?
Yeah, I got more of like a Marvel Avengers vibe from it.
Okay, fair enough.
I got more of like sailing on a whale's back through the ocean.
Wow. Okay. So Matt, is Matt's a snowblower kind of guy. He's off in his own. He's off in his own space, and that's absolutely welcome on this show. Vong, thanks for joining. I was super pumped to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I am so obsessed with the Raptors. I was there for their championship run and got to see a few games in those playoffs, and I'm just like so pumped to be talking about them, even in. I guess they're like the Tampa Raptors this year, but I'm still following them. I don't care.
Great. That's the attitude. We're hardcores here. Highs and lows. We're still going to be maniac fans. But yeah, I think without any further ado, Matt, I know you're there. I've already seen you. Please, good sir, give me your most delicious Raptors sting.
This sting goes out to the top undrafted player in Raptors history, Aaron Bynes.
Okay, I'm practicing the anthem, Matt. That's all I know. It's one of the longer stings.
I was like, are we here for the whole anthem? What's that?
No, you. But
Do I
Matt really
stand? What do I do?
Matt really, I know. I feel like I should stand, but yeah, Matt really wants you to get a sense of, Australian pride before the wow, kicks in. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. We know that, from data tracking that over 80% of listeners to this podcast listen specifically for the stings. They actually fast forward through the conversation, listen to the stings, and peace on out. So cheers to them. Thank you very much. Let's go to you first, Cathryn. And I'm just gonna frame it like this. Listeners of the pod know I'm anti-tanking, but there's a bunch of nuance, and I'm always willing to explore. But I think I want to frame this question this way: what's so bad about the 10th seed?
I mean, it's a good question. But the answer is it's terrible. It's stupid. And, look, we're not the kind of team that is like young and new and up and coming and hasn't been in the playoffs for a long time. Like, I'm anti-tanking as well, but a higher draft pick is more useful for us at this point than a potential play-in playoff first round exit. Like, it just is what it is. And I'm sure like these guys, as much as they were like, yeah, we're going to be in Florida, we're going to be somewhere where it's warm, we're not going to be in cold Canada, which I'm sure they were all saying behind our backs. I bet they can't wait to get the hell out of Tampa. I think they're done with Tampa. They're done.
I think there is definitely we're done with this place vibe for sure. I feel like that at post trade deadline really started to settle in, and kind of this just like this gross vibe to the season, this relentless vibe. We've had Fred coming out this week, kind of commenting on just pushing forward for profits vibe of this season and how hard that's felt. I mean, I think that's valid. Like the idea that our team does have playoff experience, I think there's truth there. Depending on what you think of the core going forward, Fred, OG,
I mean, I
OG
like
to
Fred.
a lesser extent, and Pascal. I've had deep runs because, like, the thing with OG, right? He's got those 2 series against Brooklyn and Boston, and then the Cleveland series, and that's it. Because OG wasn't part of the whole run, so he's someone I think I'd love to see in any type of pressured scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. He's already proved he can crush it.
Yeah, that's
in a tough scenario. Like, I don't know. I don't think OG has anything to prove. Certainly not to me. Like, and going back to like Fred's statement, at least like in that statement, he took like accountability. He was like, "Well, we voted for it, so he can't complain." And I'm like, "Well, I'm glad you added that in there." Like, cause
yeah, for sure.
No,
like the players did vote on this season. Like, so there is, I mean, there is sometimes a tone that like they're just having to do this no matter what. I mean, like, at the same time, it is a union. Fred could have voted against it and still lost and still be playing because, that's how that's how that works. So I think, and also players, I think, often are frustrated about things and still have to do them anyhow. Like, we saw that with the beginning of the season with LeBron and, Danny Green being like, we don't know if we'll start around Christmas. And it's like, you did exactly start around Christmas because, money is the main driving force of the league. Vong, sorry, I feel like we should jump to you here. How do you feel about the 10 seed or furthermore, like, what do you think, what's so bad about the 10 seed? Do you agree with Cathryn? It's kind of like not useful for this team?
I don't know. I don't really see anything bad about it. I feel like the only thing is our draft positioning. But I feel like as soon as we decided to not trade Kyle Lowry, I'm like, we got to go for it. This could be our last Kyle Lowry run. I don't want to go down in flames. Like, even if it's just one last Kyle Lowry playoff moment, just give him that chance to go out on top for us. And especially Kyle Lowry in like a, 1 game to advance kind of situation where it's not a series. You never know what he's going to do. I also think too, with we were talking with the playoff experience. I think even though Pascal got a lot of playoff experience during our championship run, he really failed when he had like more responsibility last year.
Yeah,
and I just feel like he does need more reps, and especially because this year he's missing all these like late game shots, and then he's arguing when he's not being put in late in the game. But like, dude, you missed like 5 late game shots. So maybe if you made 1, then we would put you in at the end of the game. So like, I feel like he kind of needs those reps. And then finally with like the draft position, of all people, I just trust Masai Ujiri so much that I don't think our draft positioning matters as much as other teams. Like, he's going to turn, like assets into better assets. Like, he'll turn Norm Powell into Gary Trent. He'll turn, Andrea Bargnani into a Jakob Poeltl, into eventually Kawhi Leonard.
That's the wild one. Yeah. What just if you start with Bargnani, there's just like it's cartoonish, like jaw drop with Masai. Sorry.
Yeah, like everybody thought we would have to give up a first rounder to get a Bargnani to get rid of him, and instead we got a first rounder back, which then turned into Kawhi. That we're a part of the package for Kawhi. That's crazy. So for me, like the actual, whether we're like 1 more space up or 1 more space down, I don't think that's worth losing our final run with Kyle. Just my opinion. I totally
No,
see
no,
both
it's,
ways though, but yeah.
I think like, I've definitely been someone who is this whole season kind of been pretty stubbornly steadfast, like trying to, I mean, I think this team has a lot of skill, which is why I think fans are also seeing it's difficult for them to tank, like Detroit, Cleveland, Washington. Like there are some teams that compared to the Raptors are even more bereft of talent. And when they're trying to lose, or Orlando, when they're trying to lose, they're better at it than we are. And we've seen a couple scenarios where we've rested close to our 5 best players, and still won. And I think like obviously we're coming up against Brooklyn, so those types of games will be easier to lose. I think for me is I'm still stuck on. I would prefer seeing Yuta, Paul Watson, Birch, anybody, Flynn, get any type of like playoff reps, even though there's still, I think the Tampa thing is very, very fair. I think it's fair for Raptors fans to be like, I don't relate to this. I don't really want this. I don't care about this. I just don't think that like there's a restart thing. Like I think it's all kind of a time-based continuum. So if they miss a play-in game this summer, that's irreplaceable. That's come and gone. And it's one of those things that like you just can't have it. And I think like getting swept in, if they were to advance is diminished in a way that I just don't really agree with. Like if we get swept by, let's say, Brooklyn or Philly, and it exposes Pascal to such a degree, then we've learned that and we have that this summer. And we can work with that.
I don't know if I agree with that. Because haven't we learned this with Pascal already?
Well, yeah, but players grow and change, like similar to DeMar and Lowry. Like Lowry had a pretty horrible start to his playoff career, and he kind of like grew. And the system, we surrounded him with better players. Finally, he got like a mega lead in Kawhi. Even a guy like Birch, I think you're gonna see something from him, as opposed to just, I guess for me, there's not really an injection or a way to say, hey, now we're trying. It's a habit, and it's a continuous habit. And sure, a couple of our best players have it. In Fred, like that's a guy I assume, as close to an on-off switch, but the other guys, I'm like, there's nothing replaces. There's a reason these guys play basketball every single day of their lives, because it's like, it's one of those things. You just have to do it as much as possible.
Yeah. Like, I think like for me, I will like, just to clarify, like, I'm not even against tanking. I'm just saying we can't tank halfway. Once you decide to keep Kyle Lowry, then we're not going to out tank these other teams. Like, to me, if we're in asset acquisition, trade Kyle Lowry and then tank. But if we're doing it halfway, we're keeping him, but then we're not trying to get into the 10th seed. It just sort of seems like we're playing it both ways, and that's just like the worst of both worlds.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
It is kind of like this tough spot where the team didn't know exactly what it was as well. And, there's been some disappointment, and there's been some COVID at a pretty rough time. And I think where I'm at as far as like the tanking type of thing, I like that we're prioritizing rest straight up. So for me, then it's just all excitement. It's like, I love that OKC game. I think that's like irreplaceable for Malachi. And I think like, Trent or whomever, like those types of things I think are really kind of like important even later into the season. Like, I've watched a couple OKC, Orlando, and Cleveland games, and it's like no one's learning anything there. No one's getting better, and they're hoping for a savior, and maybe they'll get one. But yeah, and there's also the seeding thing too, as far as like percentages. So that's kind of tough for me playing. I mean, hey, fair enough. I got to read the room here too, and I think Raptors fans are having a tough time watching this team. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's fair.
I think for me that's kind of more what it is. Like the season barely feels real to me, and I think there's a part of me that just wants it to end and wants to
Totally.
like pick it up in better times, if I'm being completely honest. And like what we
No,
were saying
that's yeah.
before with Pascal, I was like, I understand your point about him like needing reps and stuff, but I'm like, maybe this guy really needs a break. Because it's not like, with DeMar and Kyle, like, oh, they had some bad playoff runs in the past and then they came back strong. Like, this guy has not been where he was a year ago in a year. So, like, so to me, it's not the same scenario.
That's
I think from an internet trolling perspective, the last thing this guy needs is another like exposure of the playoffs. So, I mean, I'd love to be wrong. Like, I would love to be wrong, but that's why I'm kind of sitting. Like, it's so funny that I feel like our dynamic has turned into me being the villain of this pod, but
God,
or at
not at
least
all.
for this episode. But I just feel like I don't know. I'm not convinced that this is something we need. Like for the really young guys like Malachi and Yuta and stuff, like, yeah, I can see the benefit there for sure, but they're also surrounded by really good vets who have been there, and like I don't know, I'm just not fully convinced. But I agree with Vong about Kyle. Like, it's just weird. I know we've talked about the whole Kyle trade, and I'm sure you've gone through it a lot on this pod, but like it is still weird that they didn't trade him. And a part of me, just from a fan perspective, feels like we already had this like pretty dramatic goodbye moment. So I don't know, like, I guess we'll have if we are in the play-in, we'll have a second goodbye moment, because we all know realistically he's likely not coming back.
See, I disagree with that.
You think he's coming back?
I think that's kind of Raptors. It's similar to me as like the certainty that Masai isn't coming back. To me, it kind of speaks more of like Raptors fan anxiety. Like,
but he sold his house.
Oh, he's so okay. I mean, hey, if you want to get lost in Toronto real estate, fair enough. Like, that to me is a bit too wild. But I think, like, yeah,
if he's still at his house, I'd be like, Kyle staying. Legend.
To me, the certainty that he's gone is almost identical to the certainty that he was going to be traded. Okay, and the reality is pretty similar as well. I think the reality is that Kyle is like, as an idea, was so perfect for so many teams, but when it came to what he was, what he wanted, they were hesitant. And I think that part of Kyle's personality is that he's particular, and I think that's going to play out this offseason. I think he's going to want, I mean, I've said this before in the pod, but I think he's going to want things that other teams are going to think that they want, and when it gets close to making a deal, they'll say, wait a second, how much do you want? 25? No, and I think that sort of thing is going to kind of bring him back to his perfect place, Toronto, or a sign and trade. That's, if I had to make a guess. I don't see him not working with Masai, like just like kind of like leaving. And again, if he does, for me, you just can't really, I don't know. You can't really break him down to like a lost asset when you've won a championship. Like, that's why you do anything.
Yeah, and we clear up the cap space. Like, I just figured we don't trade him because the cap space is worth more than what was being offered.
100%. Like, and I think, you'll never know exactly who or what was fully offered. Like, maybe there was more value than I know. I just remember the Philly Miami trades. I was like, anyways, this is a bit of real litigation.
Sorry, yeah, I know.
I think that it's similar to the DeMar trade. It's one of these, like, or the Vince, like, leaving. This is going to be one of these big moments, right? Like, I think how we won a championship eventually, and then also this, like, step off the mountaintop, there's going to be these kind of, like, big pivotal moments that end up being kind of like a sort of conjecture. Like I've said a million times, I think the Raptors win a championship if we trade Kyle instead of DeMar. We win a championship if we don't fire Casey. But that's pure conjecture, right? So it's kind of like, I do honestly believe that, and there's people who believe. I know, yeah. That's my.
I don't.
I definitely don't believe either of those things. But
we're fans. You know, we gotta let it out.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's not the point of this episode, but I definitely feel like everything lined up perfectly, and
I think
most
so, yeah.
definitely without Kyle Lowry and with DeMar DeRozan instead, I think that's game over. That's not even happening, even with Kawhi.
Fair enough. And again, like, you know, I don't want to go into arguing my like conjecture based point, because it's like, you know, about a bunch of hypotheticals. So I'll jump back onto my own questions. But yeah, Vong, this is kind of just like a Raptors role player looking into the future based question. But we've extended Freddie G, who's looked okay. Like, he's a 10-day contract. It looks like he deserves another 10-day contract. Paul Watson obviously came back from his, you know, like whatever happened to him. I do believe it was COVID as well, unfortunately. Had that massive game. And Yuta has been given an NBA contract. I don't know the exact details of the contract. I assumed it's sort of like a minimum non-guaranteed, very low end type thing. But yeah, just kind of looking into the future, who do you think is going to be, who's going to have the best NBA career out of those three?
Well, I think, you know, and this is going to be very on brand for me, but people are going to think that I'm biased, because I usually am. But of course, I'm going to have to go with Yuta Watanabe. You know, my fellow East Asian. I think for a lot of reasons. He's 6'9", you know, good height for a forward, but he moves more like a small forward. So he's got the speed to cover small forwards, or a lot of small forwards, and he's got the height and length to cover a lot of power forwards. He has that versatility. He's shown good hustle. He's shown that he can shoot the three ball to space the floor for us. You know. And even if you project out his blocks and his steals to 48 minutes or 36 minutes, whatever, they're pretty good. And I would say even more than that, even more than on the stats side, is he's the only one of the three that when our whole team was healthy, he made the rotation on a healthy Raptors team. And even during the offseason, to make our roster, he beat out legitimate NBA players like Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. Like, he took his spot. And Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, I thought he played good for us last year. So that's when
Me too.
that's when Yuta caught my attention. It was like, oh, he literally just beat out a real NBA player to make this team. I think Freddie G, you know, too early to tell, but you know, this 6-game start to his career is like probably about as good as he would have, you know, in his wildest dreams. You know, I don't think it's super sustainable, but who knows? He's so young. It's just, you know, it's tough to know after just 6 games. But, you know, I would say he might have similar potential, but he hasn't proven it yet. You know, PWJ, I think, I don't know. I'm not big on him. I know he had that big game recently. What was it, like 30 points or something? But I don't know. You look over the past couple of years, he's had like 2-3 of those games, and every other game he's been terrible. It's just not consistent enough. I'm not even sure how long he'll be like in the NBA, to tell you the truth. And that's sort of my ranking of those 3.
Hey, fair enough. I think I'm probably a little bit higher on Paul Watson Jr. only because I think he was scratching the surface of the rotation as well when the Raptors were a bit healthier. Freddie G was, a little bit of a throw-in to this question, and I think it is kind of early to tell. What about you, Cathryn? Where are you at on, like, you know, just if you had to kind of project these players out and take a guess?
Yeah, look, Vong, there is no East Asian bias here. Yuta is already a legend. He is absolutely the one that will have the best NBA career out of these 3. No doubt about it. He's already in a poster. Sure, it's not like he's on the other end of the poster, but a poster nonetheless.
Poster's a poster.
He is in Walmarts all across Minneapolis, okay? Like, he is already it. So it's definitely Yuta.
Sorry, I got that so much later, and I was like, oh my god. Anyways, great job.
I think with Freddie G, look, like this is just. I mean, look, he's had a good 6 games, for who he is. But this is absolutely Raptor fandom clinging to any kind of optimism that could possibly exist currently. I feel Raptors fans, generally speaking, pretty desperate. We lean desperate. We don't have any chill whatsoever. We have no chill.
No way.
And so you get Freddie Gillespie, who I joked here that he sounds like a baseball player from 100 years ago.
He really does.
And he really does. And people like, oh, you have a decent game. We love you, man. Like it's a lot. It's a lot. But good for him. Good for him for having a good showing out. He got a second 10-day. Well earned. Thanks for giving us something. This
From that
season.
position. Oh my god.
Thanks. Yeah, and Paul Watson Jr. Like I don't have any strong opinions on him. Like with these players that are kind of on the fringes of the NBA, like I always hope for the best. I hope they'll land somewhere. Like, but yeah, it's still his NBA career. I would say is still kind of up in the air. Probably with Freddie Gillespie too.
Oh, well, yeah, I would say Freddie Gillespie is like very much, he's like still in that, like just knocking on the door as like this reliable figure. Yeah, Paul Watson, I think, is on his way to being like maybe I'm a bit higher than you two. I think he is an NBA player. I think I think the G League is also starting to mimic the NBA a lot more, both in like system and spacing, and he's like shot extremely well at that level. I mean, we had Malcolm Miller, who also was like that. So, sometimes it doesn't work out. But also, I think there is some kind of crossover there.
We should have kept Malcolm Miller. That's a hot take.
Ooh, I mean, whoa, that's a wild take,
That's such a deep, like,
hey, we keep Malcolm Miller back-to-back rings. Okay. There's no way we lose to Boston. I actually
have no idea if that's accurate or not, but I feel like for the people who listen to this podcast, that would get under their skin.
What, the Malcolm Miller?
Yeah, that we should have kept Malcolm Miller.
Yeah, people are, I mean, I already can feel like the angry texts that are going to come me and Matt's way.
Yeah.
Because people text our personal phones every time they listen to the pod.
Part of the Patreon package.
It's really
your
intense.
Cell phone numbers.
It's pretty invasive. Okay, let's start. Matt, please come on in. And Cathryn, I think I want to start with you on this just like kind of weird, silly question. If you had to design a theme park based on a particular current Raptors player, a la like, Dollywood, for Dolly Parton, who is it? And give me a sense of the park.
Okay, so I kind of messed this up because you sent us these questions in advance and I thought it was just a ride, not an entire park.
That's okay, because I think a whole park can be designed around a ride, and my questions
because it makes sense for the park to be the Raptors and then individual rides. But nonetheless, hey,
when you hear mine, it's yours is going to be better. So don't
no,
worry.
Mine's easily the worst. I already know that because I already messed up the question.
Nice.
So my ride. So look, I know I'm bending a lot of rules here. First of all, I messed up the question. Second of all, you said players, but we all know I'm the Nick Nurse stan.
Hey,
so
you do you. You're not messing anything up. Okay, you're perfect.
So I can't. So it's a bad name, but you just got to hear me out. It's for now. It's okay. Temporary title called Nursatron.
Okay.
And what it is, it's a maze. It's a giant maze. There's a lot of lasers. There's even more jazz. Okay, so there's a lot of lasers. There's a lot of jazz music. You got to get through the maze. And at the end, a real life nurse gives you the vaccine and the Arkells play you out.
Whoa.
No fisherman friends, eh?
Sure, you can. Yeah, sure. There's fisherman's friends at the end.
I beg to differ. That is not just a ride. That's an experience.
That's
a
an
theme park.
experience.
That's a way of life.
Yeah, well, just like Nick Nurse's coaching.
That's amazing. When you said the Nursatron, I went straight to Gravitron, but this is much more like, seems like funhousey.
Yeah. Yeah, more fantasy.
Okay, Vong. What's up? Do you got a theme park?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I was going back and forth, but I decided to go with the OG Ananobi, and the experience is going to be called Wannabe OG, and it's about reliving the greatest NBA shots in history. So you'll actually have like a basketball court, and they'll set up the play. We'll have actors playing the other players in the correct jerseys, and then you get to relive the OG Ananobi shot. They'll like throw it to you. You get to attempt this shot. If you make this shot, all the actors will like run and crowd you the same way like you just made that shot. And then
this is amazing.
And then for bonus points, like we'll have a reporter come after and you get to give your quote. You could re-say OG's quote, or you can make up your own. And I think, you could do this for OG shot. You could also, choose to relive the Kawhi Leonard shot, try and redo the Kawhi Leonard crouch. We'll have like photographers there to try and get you to redo the moment. And then, you can try to relive the Kawhi Leonard ha 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 moment as well. So it's just sort of like this whole thing. You could do like, you could do like that Paul Pierce I called game shot. It's just all this shit. It's like the shot being swarmed and then the reporter shit. That's my thing. Wannabe OG.
That's fantastic. And it seems like with virtual reality potentially like imminent in a Cineplex near us.
Will you cast me as Kate Burness?
Done.
Thank you.
Will you cast me as Gravis Vasquez, who somehow's in the bubble and like hanging out? Because I'll do that shimmy. You know what I mean? Like for the mask or like whatever need. Okay, Matt. What's up? Tell us about however you interpreted my question.
Well, I thought about it. I tried to be as realistic as I could because, I care a lot about this player, obviously, through the year. Big, lumbering players that don't do much. I care about them. And so I'm thinking about Aaron Baines here.
I know you are.
Okay? No. You know I'm talking about Aaron Baines.
I know it was going to be Baines World all along.
Let me tell you, Baines World. Fuck, that's good too. That's good too. But this is okay. Look, when I was a kid, I grew up north of Toronto, and we had our own thing, like type of Chuck E. Cheese, and it was called Wally B World. And Wally B World was a kangaroo, mate. He was the mascot, right? And it shut down in the late 90s. So
is this animatronic stuff?
No, it's just like a Chuck E. Cheese, but it's called Wally B World, and it shut down. But Baines, he's going to buy that franchise and bring it back. And the good thing about it, and what I remember about the games and stuff there, and he's going to run this. He's going to be making the pizza in the back. Nothing really worked well in that place. Everything was a bit broken. When you'd win a game, you wouldn't get the tickets printed properly. You couldn't go and get your troll doll at the gift counter. So I think it kind of goes hand in hand, and it could still be Wally B World, Mike, but the B is Baines, so Wally Baines World. And I think it is a great, he should start thinking about his post NBA career now. And I don't think there's no better place to think about doing that than Newmarket, Ontario. So
wow. So yours is basically just a brief history of Wally B World and a slight rebrand.
Yeah,
okay.
That's it.
No worries.
Wow.
A little piece of history there from Maddie
Newmarket
D.
history for the listeners.
I love it. Well, mine, I think I might still be in the running for the very worst idea. Mine, I'm trying to celebrate one of our new players, Kem Birch. The name kind of got me going. Birch Falls. So there's a lot of, type of mill towns in Ontario and places that were, former industry that have kind of like, they're smaller now and a little bit like decrepit. And I feel like there's also a lot of like marijuana revitalization products or projects where it's kind of like they head into a town and like, oh, it used to be like a mill town. Well, we can use some of these buildings to produce marijuana. So this is like a marijuana based kind of like mill. There's a couple rides and, they grow and educate about marijuana. And Birch Falls. I don't know if he likes weed. I don't know anything about Ken Birch, to be honest, but I was just thinking there's a Montreal, Ottawa thing there. And I know
that is just such a long walk for you to just smoke a joint.
It really is. It really is. But at the end of that walk, Ken Birch is there. And he's like, what do you think of Birch Falls? You know what I mean? And you're like, I don't get it. And he's like, me either. Okay, I think we've got silly enough.
That's a fun
with
one.
some. What's that?
I said that was a fun one.
Thank you.
No, I went way overboard on that. I was drawing out little diagrams.
My God.
I really got into it.
No, thank you all
So
for
elaborate.
interpreting my question in the ways that you did. Okay, let's do some NBA stuff. Maddie, please, good sir, give me that most delicious NBA sting.
Faxing beside you, Jerry.
I haven't heard this one in a bit. That sometimes accompanies it. Okay, Cathryn. Now this is you know what? Everything's a bit of a walk with me. This one's also a bit of a walk. Cheers. Now, in the past couple days, there's been some Zion talk, and let me tell you what, I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. So in an interview, he was asked a question, I guess, about liking Madison Square Garden and like pretty much any player that's ever played in the NBA. They love Madison Square Garden. It's one of the meccas of basketball. So of course he's like says something complimentary about it. Well, I do believe that activated the like media switch to start talking about,
Oh, for sure.
is it too early? I don't know. Is Zion going to go? And I got to say, having watched this happen with so many players recently, including Anthony Davis from New Orleans, like many years before his, extension and stuff, it's just frustrating. And I think that, I get it from from GMs. Like I get the Clippers tampering with the Raptors. I kind of get it from that competitive standpoint. I really don't get it from the NBA marketing standpoint. Like, I don't get it why ESPN is so hell-bent on the kind of like trying to stack together, 4, 5, 6, or 7 teams. And, New Orleans is exciting. It's a bit of a downer to me that like, that's not enough. And that there can only really get excited by this idea of Zion being in a bigger market. And the reason I say it's a campaign is because first Adrian Wojnarowski kind of comes out with like, oh, I don't know, should I say this? And then now Ryan Windhorst, it's like I haven't listened to it, but it's a subject on his whole podcast. So obviously they're starting that dance. And I don't even know exactly what my question is. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I should look at it again. Cathryn, is this type of conversation damaging, or am I just freaking out and it's kind of like harmless fun?
No, I mean, ultimately, like, look, Zion can say whatever he wants. If he likes New York, he likes New York, right? Everybody loves playing in Madison Square Garden. Like, that's not new. But I mean, if he left the Pelicans to go to the Knicks, like, yes, that's bad for the league. I mean, think about how awful that would be for New Orleans. Like, imagine being in New Orleans, being a fan of the Pelicans, going through this. Like, I think, am I going far back? Like, didn't this happen with like Chris Paul?
Yep. It's
and
like
then
they got
with
that pick
Anthony
and they couldn't
Davis,
build.
and now with Zion, and like the Zion thing was there to make up for Anthony Davis leaving the way that he did. Like, I know people are like, okay, yeah, league's not rigged, whatever. You can, okay, fine. Like, sure. But like, let's be.
Yeah, you're not convinced yet.
I mean, I think it's like reality TV. It's like you're letting things play out, but you'll move the needle a little bit here and there to make it more interesting. I just think like, okay, regardless of that, I don't want people thinking I'm a conspiracy theorist, but regardless, I just think like that was the whole narrative. That was the whole thing. Like, that's why Zion is there. And it is bad for the NBA for only a couple of markets to be relevant all the time, like generationally. And you do need smaller markets to keep things interesting, to be in the conversation of winning a championship. Like, what makes, when the league is at its best, there are multiple teams that have realistic shots at the championship. Like, that is when the NBA is at its best. And anything that counters that is bad for the league. I think the media jumps on it for several reasons. One, a lot of them are based in New York. Two, they have to talk about NBA basketball 5 days a week. And year round. So it's like they need stuff to cling on to and discuss. So like when you're talking about Brian Windhorst does like a whole podcast about it, and it's like he kind of has to.
Yeah.
Because
I
like,
mean,
what
it's a subject on my pod.
Yeah, it's a subject here, but it's like, it's just they need something to talk about. The NBA is a soap opera.
I agree 1,000%. The only thing is, I think there's probably, I guess, some debate about, you know, are they willing to tank another market? Like, would the NBA actually be upset if someone like Zion was in New York City, playing for the Knicks, even if it had to like?
No, but what happens to the Pelicans?
Yeah, and exactly, like, you know, and
they're
this
gonna sell them to Vegas, the Vegas Pelicans.
maybe, but yeah, that goes to me, you know, back to like, you know, picks and what they're worth, and like, what's your culture? You know, can you keep a player? And I think that's made harder with this type of thing. Because I think New Orleans, the clock shouldn't start now for them. I think they're trying to have good players. There's lots of stuff going on there. Where are you at with this type of thing, Vong? Do you like, you know, I don't know if you remember the Gordon Hayward thing way back when, like this type
I do. And actually, you know, the Utah Jazz are a great example of a small market team that has been successful outside of the Gordon Hayward situation. But, you know, with keeping their star players in the past, with Stockton alone, they're also, you know, they're a small market and they're number one in the NBA right now. And so I have no sympathy for New Orleans at all, because like they mismanaged Anthony Davis's career so poorly for 8 years or however long. I'm like, yo, dude, you know what? Get out of there. You've given them the best years of your early life playing MVP caliber. And
that's fair.
I'm like, you know what? Maybe if you were number one like Utah is, like Anthony Davis wouldn't leave. I just have no sympathy for small market teams that are just awful over and over and over, because right now we can see, you know, like I said, with the Utah Jazz, with, you know, with Portland, with the Milwaukee Bucks, if you're good and you have good management, you can keep people in. So I have no sympathy for the New Orleans Pelicans at all. I think they got they got what they deserved, because they mismanaged Anthony Davis's career, and he's a generational talent. He was like the best draft pick since LeBron James, and you can't even help the dude get out of the first round. Come on, give me a break. Like, look what happened when he finally got got to play with somebody who was good. He won a freaking championship, and he wasn't just riding LeBron's coattails. He was like co-starring. So you know what? And then also, I will say, not only is it not damaging, and I think it's even beyond, you know, just fun conversation. I think these types of conversations help propel the league. I think storylines are what makes the league. It helps push the product out to the news outlets, and there's this whole economy of podcasters, YouTubers that get to talk about this. Without free agency, without all of these different kind of things, you know, it wouldn't happen. So yeah, for me, I'm just like, you know what? There's just way too many examples, even currently, where There are top teams that are in small markets who were able to re-sign their players. And yeah, I just think I just have this pet peeve with New Orleans because I was just like, when you get a generational talent like that, or when LeBron left Cleveland the first time, oh my goodness, the best sidekick you can give him was like, well, Mo Williams. Give me a break. Give me a break.
Anton Jameson and like Shaq, Larry Hughes.
Yeah, but
Vong, I must say that is an absolutely wonderful counter. I think you made a lot of good points. I'll even throw in Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
They've re-signed Booker, and Ayton is coming along, and they made an aggressive play to trade for Chris Paul, and it's really, really paid off. And that's another small market.
I kind of meant
So,
like I feel
fair.
I feel bad for the fans in those markets is more what I was saying. But I agree with you in terms of the franchises. But I do feel bad for the fans in those markets.
Yeah, I guess for me, I just feel like the biggest markets already have such an advantage that the New York Knicks being like okay for about like half of a season means that they now have ESPN and all the major markets working hard to get the next big superstar there. And it's like, man, that's a pretty extra level, I don't know, like thing that you have, but also, it's never New York City is never going to be the same as Salt Lake City. So that's just like, it is what it is. And I think you made a good point too, as far as propelling league-wide conversation, because there's a transactional element that people really enjoy to talk about and, kind of hypothesize. And again, there's enough examples right now of teams that are doing their own thing and they're pretty damn successful. So fair enough. And I think like Cathryn said before, the best time for a league is when there's multiple contenders. And I definitely think we're in one of those times. I think, we're still in a post-Warriors world where, I know the Brooklyn Nets have the three superstars, but
I keep saying it. Just wait for Utah Jazz to win this year's NBA championship and have everyone tell them how much it doesn't count because Kevin Durant is injured. Just watch.
My God. Oh my God. That is like oddly so specific and very likely.
Yeah, I have to jump in on that because I'm so okay. So obviously I'm a huge Raptors fan, and that whole thing, like not only with the Kevin Durant injury, but also the whole thing where basically
That's
reporting.
Why I say it.
Yeah, like the whole reporting went that like Kawhi came and carried like a sad sack of losers to the championship.
Yeah.
Like it pissed me off so bad. The media I hate the most are the Golden State media because I more follow players than teams. So I'm like a huge fan of LeBron James. And for the Golden State Warriors of all teams to be complaining that one of their players are injured when their first championship, they beat like LeBron James without Kyrie and without Kevin Love. And in every single round of the playoffs that year, the team they played had an injured point guard that didn't play the whole series. So like they have had more luck than anybody in the history of championships. That was honestly the luckiest championship I've ever seen in my whole life. I've never seen a team play injured team after injured team after injured team. And LeBron, now that was a team of like somebody carrying the half dead carcass of a team to almost a championship. He still got them to 6 games. So honestly, Golden State, boo-hoo. You brought back one of your players too early, tried to fake out the league that it was a calf strain when everybody knew it was friggin' an Achilles injury. And you put the player's career at risk. And those fans trying to be like, boo-hoo, we are missing a player. Yeah, where were you when when Kyrie and Kevin Love were out? Like, no sympathy. No sympathy for Golden State. I'm so happy what's happening with them last year and this year. I just don't even care about that team.
Okay, Vong, I must say,
I love this.
I love so much that I've discovered, I'm like, okay, next time I have you on, I know how to get you riled up. New Orleans or Golden State. Either, it's like we're good to go. Okay, Vong, let's stick with you though, just for the last question. So this is going to be the first like actual dynamic of the play-in this year. Last year, the play-in was introduced, but it was such a weird thing because 8 teams were left out of the bubble. Now it's going to be a thing where teams 10, 9, 8, and 7, regardless, participate. So yeah, just, I don't know, out of all those, I can, give you a standings rundown if you need or whatever. But I mean, there's a lot of fluidity, so there's still a lot of potential. Yeah, in either conference, just give me one game. What is a potential game the most exciting for you?
I'll go to the Western Conference, and I'm gonna say I think the teams in 7 and 10 right now is Dallas and Golden State, and I want to see Luka versus Steph, just to show once again Steph Curry failing in the playoffs because he keeps winning his finals. Like, there's a reason why he never got finals MVP and he didn't deserve it. His shot goes cold in the playoffs, in the biggest games, in game 7s. So I want to see him go up against a real stud like Luka and have Luka run his ass over when Steph doesn't have like an overpowered team. That's what
I love this. Okay, new thing that I know can rile you up: Steph Curry. Okay, that's a great answer though. Like yeah, exactly. I think we're about to see how this all plays out, and yeah, a one-off game between Dallas and Golden State. I think there is an aspect of, if the losing team wins, they have to play again. But regardless, it's going to have like a one and done kind of March Madness-y feel. And yeah, those two teams, that would just be like a wildly fun offensive game, I think. Yeah, Cathryn, what's one potential game you'd love to see?
I mean, I think all 4 teams in the West are more exciting than all 4 teams in the East when it comes to the
very
play,
fair. Yeah,
by a pretty significant margin. Like, we're talking, like, I'm just pulling it up now. So in the West, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, Mavericks, Grizzlies, Warriors, Spurs versus Heat, Hornets, Pacers, and currently Bulls. I mean, it just doesn't even come close. Like, every matchup in the West is so much more exciting. Even if it's Grizzlies Warriors, I'm looking forward to that. If it's Mavericks Spurs, like, that's exciting. Like, the Eastern Conference play-in is so sad. And I actually think like whoever gets the Hornets could actually have a really good shot at knocking them off. And I do think one of the 9th or 10th teams in the East will end up in the playoffs.
Ooh, I like that.
But I'm looking forward to just the West generally. Like, I don't even know if I'll tune into the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs, if I'm being totally honest.
I love that. I'll watch all the games.
I mean, I'll watch. I'm just being a dick, but yeah.
No, I love it. The Western one, I mean, like, yeah, looking at it, it's like, oh my God, it's not even really. And I like the one I was kind of thinking about. I guess there was a bit of, I don't know, like assuming things could still go a bunch of ways here. But the one I was like hoping for was actually Spurs Warriors. Just because I think that both teams are kind of like have a lot of like weird, funky players that have been stripped down. Like they're not operating. They're not what they were, but they also have this like storied history. Yeah, I'd like to see Pop and Kerr go at it for like one game. I think could be kind of fun. I think though Dallas Golden State would probably be the most exciting. For some reason I was thinking that Dallas might still push their way to the 6, but I guess that Portland lead is kind of big. Okay, you know what? Let's wrap this baby up with some quickish questions. What do you buddies say? Shall we do some quickish questions?
Sure thing.
Yeah.
Yarp.
Maddie, please give me that quickish questions sting.
Quickish Questions.
Hello. Quickish questions. Cathryn, you know how it works all too well. Matt, you know how it works all too well. Vong, just in case you don't know, I'm going to read these questions as clearly and concisely as possible. It's up to you to answer as quickly as humanly possible. No stalling or delaying or phoning a friend. Matt, Please just answer quickly. Cool. Let's
I love
do.
when we have a new guest in for this, because then they'll quickly see that it's just such a mess.
Oh, it's a hot mess. That's really how I should describe it. But I think part of me describing it is like the hot mess stew. So we're just getting stewy. Okay, let's do this. Vong, Cathryn, Matt. All right, Maddie, hit me. Vong. Ask you to name the last 3 teams who tanked for a top 5 pick and successfully won a championship. It's a bit of a hard question to pull out of nowhere, but are there any teams that come to mind?
Spurs when they got Tim Duncan.
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland when they got LeBron. Obviously, he had to come back afterward.
But yep, that's correct though.
And shit, I can't think of a third. Those are the only 2 that come to my brain.
Yeah, someone had kind of answered this question. Ned Petrie, friend of the pod, in a longer way. Hakeem Olajuwon was another example. Houston tank for him. Bit of a hard, quickish question, but you crushed it.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Tough start.
Trivia.
Cathryn.
You gotta get that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, sorry, that one has to go to Matt. I'm so sorry.
Oh man, is it about Space Jam?
You better believe it's about Space Jam, Matt, and it's coming at you. Cathryn, if you were given a shoe deal, who would you sign with, and what would your signature shoe be called?
Oh my god. I would sign with Adidas because they're most colorful.
Cheers.
And it would be called Kit Kats.
Okay, I like that quite a
I'm
bit.
really just very girly about it.
No, that's wonderful. Matt, biggest surprise cameo in the new Space Jam.
The ghost of Dom DeLuise. Very strange.
That would be very strange. Yeah. The ghost of Dom DeLuise. Cheers. Vong. What's up with Gary Trent? With Gary Trent Jr. I feel like he likes being a Raptor too much. He has really embraced it. What is he hiding?
I feel like he's running away from an ex in Portland, and this just gave him a reason to break up with some hoe without having to say it. He'd be like, oh yeah, you know what? It's cross-border. The border's closed. Sorry, girl, I can't see you no more. But really, he'd be like, bye, bitch.
Wow. Wow, Trent Jr., full of secrets. Cathryn, any good audiobook recommendations for Aaron Baines to help him kill time while sitting on the bench?
Okay, so oh my god, this is so funny. There is a scripted podcast called Dirty Diana, and it stars Demi Moore, and it is about a bored housewife who starts her own pornographic website, but it's all about female fantasies, and it is hot and steamy recommend.
I love so much that you took that joke of a question and you're like, guess what? I have a real reco. I hope you're listening, Aaron.
But it would be pretty funny if Aaron Baines is on the bench listening to Demi Moore.
Oh, I'm sure he would be.
Yeah.
Maddie.
Yeah.
In the new Space Jam,
oh, for fuck's sake.
LeBron delivers probably the greatest line in cinema history with, "What in the Matrix hell?" Give us your own reading of that line.
You want me to give a reading of that line?
That's right.
Is it what in the whole Matrix hell?
It's what in the Matrix hell?
What in the Matrix hell? What in the Matrix hell?
Oh my god. Okay, you gotta watch Space Jam.
Did you run out of breath, Maddie? Like,
yeah.
I got a little lightheaded there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what Space Jam does? I really gotta finish it.
That was a bit scary. Okay, Vong. I'm really liking what the Raptors roster looks like now for the next season. What type of player do you think the Raptors still need that we should try to acquire in the offseason and in the draft?
I think we definitely still need a big man. And I think, getting a big man for not too much in the off season is pretty easy, or we could get it in the draft at that draft positioning, because a young big man, you don't have to train too much before he's effective.
Cathryn,
Mm-hmm.
if we get number 8, who do you want it to be, Nets or Sixers?
Who? This is gonna say, I don't know. They're both bad. Ooh. Okay, I'm gonna say Nets, because I think we're getting beat by both teams, and I don't want to get beat by the Sixers. I want to pretend we're still in Joel Embiid's head, even though that's like those days are over.
Yes.
Great answer. Matt.
Yeah.
What seed would the Raptors be in the playoffs if they had Valanciunas this year instead of Aaron Baines?
Wow.
Whole year.
I mean, I'm gonna
JV's
say,
having a big year too.
because we got JV. Oh my God, over Baines. Would love that. I would say that the Raptors would be in 8th place.
What?
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fine.
That's
Yeah,
it.
that's Matt. You're still like that's.
That's it.
Hey, you know what? You're. It's a tough season, so.
I don't know if JV's the answer to our problems.
I think
No?
he'd answer some, none of the defensive ones, but a lot of the rebounding ones. Okay. That's it. Sorry, we mentioned the end of the pod. Thank you all so much. This was a good one. Yeah, I don't know. Thank you so much, everyone who listens, and for sharing, subscribing, and kind of like pushing the podcast. We've been, having a good time recently. Let me go to you first, Cathryn. What's up? What are you doing? Or just like a message to the world. It's okay.
Message to the world.
Well, it's COVID time, so sometimes people are like, I'm not doing anything, dude.
Yeah, well, I still got my podcast going, Buckets and Tea NBA show. Episodes come out every Monday, so you can get that on Apple or Spotify. And I got things brewing that will hopefully be a thing, but you never know. Follow me. I post random things.
You're a great follow.
Thank you.
Everyone follow Cathryn. Everyone listen to her podcast.
Yeah. Click on her name in the show notes.
Damn right. She recently had a friend of the pod, Matt McCready, one of my favorite basketball minds. I haven't listened to the pod yet, but I will.
We had a messy episode. I have to.
Good. A nice hot mess of an episode. Sounds like Quickish Questions.
Yeah.
Vong, what's up? Is there? You're joining the Sonar Podcast Network. That's amazing. So why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, so I've got a podcast called Rice Asian Movies Podcast, where we review Asian-led films through the lens of representation, and then we will debate a topic that we pluck out of the movie's theme. So, for instance, we reviewed Mortal Kombat, and we discussed the topic of depictions of violence in Eastern cinema versus Western cinema. So, it's really watching the movie, but then like pulling out the cultural themes. And so we launch officially today on the Sonar Network, and we're super excited. Yeah.
Sweet. Well, everyone check out that pod. Give it a good review, share with your family. Damn right. Well, thank you all. This was a good time. Maddie, I guess if you feel like we're good to go, please, sir, just give me those sweet words. Okay.
Okay.
This podcast has been brought to you by the Sonar Network.
Sonar!